are these people?
Current thing
yeah,
place.
I'm guessing he's not going to stop by there. Secret Service ain't going to let him do that.
They might if they pissed him off. Like, did he get ketchup on the walls this week?
If he gets there, he might get calibrated.
Calibrated, huh?
So big caliber missiles.
This is from the dossier over on Substack from I can never pronounce this guy's last name. Jordan Shkaketel.
Schnatzel?
I want to say it's like
Shaktel.
but Shaktel.
It's Shaktel.
Okay. It's all. I mean, Shaq usually tells us it's all about geometry, but you know, whatever.
It's all about geometry. Yes. I set you up, and you just.
It's all about geometry.
You failed on that. It's all about
geometry.
Thank you.
It's all about geometry.
Thank you, Shaq.
It was.
So, the war in Ukraine may come an end sooner than expected. So Biden sanctions apparently are collapsing as Ukraine piles up losses and hemorrhages cash. So, for our editor later, there's like 3 Ukraine stories I'm going to put together. So, you know, keep that in mind. But otherwise, so yeah, the dossier, Jordan Scahill, Shaktel.
Shaktel. There you go. Yeah.
So
Scahill's the puke that works for The Intercept.
Yeah. That's right.
Disappoints us as much as Kyle Kalinske does.
See, I'm glad someone has memory in the group. You know, what was the current thing has become a massive liability. Europe is staring down the potential for a continual continental dark winter. And as each month passes, fewer countries aligned with the Biden administration seem willing to maintain the appetite for perpetual warfare over who gets to control Ukraine. So the ruling class squabble.
No, wait. You said dark winter. You said dark winter again. Damn, man. For 3 years, we've been hearing the words dark winter. They started that during the 2020 campaign. If you remember, in October, it was originally part of the World Economic Forum, some kind of Op 2020, and they have been slipping that dark winter vernacular into the terminology that they've been using now for years, and it's really frightening. It's total fear tactics. It's going to be a dark winter in Europe.
Yeah.
No, we're just going to sell them gas at a higher price. But I saw something about, all right, you probably have that. Germany, like these massive companies are actually going to cut down the amount of heat that they're going to allow at night, the maximum temperature in their rental places. Yep.
Didn't Biden.
Gazprom isn't going to be at least for another couple months, and that's if Putin decides to release it back to them.
I don't know
how Germany
Anthony
acts in the next couple of months.
Tony, I don't know, Tony. I do not know if Biden say he was a Zionist today. Did he?
Yes, he did.
That's kind of fucked up.
To a bunch of Israeli people.
Oh God!
He walked right off the plane. It was the first thing that he said. He literally walked down the ramp and he's like, "I'm not a Jew, but I'm a Zionist." Like, dude. Yep.
Anyway,
like at some point, they're just gonna have to trip him down the top of the stairs.
Fuck you.
Yeah. So
what? How long do you think it's going to be before Biden passes peacefully in his sleep?
Not soon enough. This ruling class squabble has devastated the lives of hundreds of millions of ordinary citizens, but that didn't change the trajectory of the conflict. It was only when the war effort became deeply unpopular did this consensus change. Poll testing politicians are keenly aware that in both America and Europe, there is no longer a steady support for delegating untold billions in taxpayer funds and rhetorical support to this campaign. What does this mean for the war in Ukraine? Don't be surprised for a conclusion to the Russia-Ukraine conflict sooner rather than later. 2 realities that are worth paying attention to moving forward. 1, Ukraine is losing, and there are no signs that they can turn the tide of the war. So after being pushed back from Kiev in the early days of the war, filling the news media and the US EU politicians with large doses of hopium, the Russian military has narrowed its focus on strategically vital and resource-rich areas of eastern Ukraine. In doing so, Moscow has remained dominant on the battlefield thanks in large part to its ability to overpower Ukrainian forces with its artillery arsenal. The Zelensky-led government is losing, and NATO armies don't want to continue depreciating their own arsenals to assist in the propping up of its failing client. So, I know you follow a lot of the military stuff that's happening over there, Yeti. And you saw some artillery from the Russians coming out recently too, right?
They're starting to bring out their heavier, their heavier bombs, their heavier missiles. They're starting to hit them as well as just numerous more times.
Right. Gotcha.
It's there was one point, I think it was an hour of constant bombs in the Kherson region.
Yeah.
It was just it was continual a couple of days ago. But unfortunately, the war is not going to stop because Biden has too much money invested in it. Yep. And him and his family and Pelosi and a couple others are too far entangled in this Ukraine.
It won't end because it won't end because they want it to. It'll be in because it has to. That there won't be any. The only way
it's going to end is if they basically
give
turn
up
themselves in.
Right. Yeah. Well, they just have to get they're just going to be oh, well, I guess that's done now. They're going to find some and then move on to the next thing. Well,
no, because the main goal of NATO has always been to essentially neuter Russia and take its resources. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing it's doing in Ukraine. And that's why when Crimea and Donbass and Lugansk wanted to separate in 2014 after the coup, all the big resources are all in that area. So basically Donetsk, Lugansk, and Crimea have all the major natural resources in the Ukraine. That's why it's so important.
John Kemper says it's Z-Man's fault. Not enough ghosts in Kiev or children fighters.
They're also the ones that border on Russia. I just realized that I had my mic muted from the thing.
Okay. So
the biolabs.
I've been killing it, but you guys just haven't heard anything I said.
No. What did you say on that they're bordering Russia? Yeah. Yes. The other parts of NATO, that's going to be a problem with Finland and whatever, right?
Well, I don't think Finland and Sweden are going to be able to get in anyways.
Yeah.
Because Turkey specifically requested extradition of some people they claim terrorists, but Finland basically said they're not going to expedite any of their citizens,
right,
or anybody in their country, and that was basically the key point in Turkey allowing them to join NATO.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't happen, they're not joining NATO, regardless.
That makes sense. So, and this is Ukrainian artillery outnumbered 8-1 by Russian Foreign Legion, which includes the Chechens as well, right?
That's not Chris Legion.
There's Chechens, and then there's Russia's so big. There's lots of different
areas and groups, and
I for the most part, I don't know of any other real group other than the Chechens that are with Russia right now.
Right.
I'm sure they probably have their share of mercenaries as well from other countries.
I like how he puts how even Reuters is having to say this. This is Reuters willing to admit this. So in addition to its continuing battlefield supremacy, Russia now has time on its side thanks to the booming commodity market and Russia's many willing energy buyers. So this is Market Insider. Russia snagged $24 billion in just 3 months from its energy sales to India and China, report says. So it's making
China almost doubled their imports from Russia.
What's up, Dingo? Nice to see you here. But yeah, so Ukraine is the most polar opposite situation. Kiev is becoming a massive financial liability for the West, even as Western powers have already allocated over $100 billion in weapons and aid to Ukraine, The Zelensky-led government continues to demand incredible sums to sustain the war effort, right? And here's another article
He's got
from
a bad coke habit, man.
Yeah.
Shacktel.
Most of that money coming in is just going to the manufacturers.
Right.
So they're basically just web money laundering right now.
Yes. Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Well, and most of the weapons aren't even making it to the battlefield. I think I talked about this before.
Right.
Basically, it's almost as soon as they come on Ukraine territory, or they'll wait till they get to the arms depot, and then Russia will hit them.
Yeah. I'm just opening up the speaker.
And then the ones that are making it on the battlefield are getting sold.
F11.
Russia.
There you go. So,
yep.
This is the article, another article from Shacktel, which I will put in the chat here so that anyone wants to read that one who hasn't, they can. But he's essentially talking about, Zelensky asking for another $750 billion. So
$1 billion.
In some underreported signal, and this is what you were talking about, Indy, right? That surfaced over the weekend. Germany, which largely controls the EU's finances, have reportedly been blocking a $9 billion tranche to the Zelensky regime, concerned over the country's ability to remain solvent. So this is Germany's blocking the allocation of $9 billion in aid to Ukraine from EU, writes Corriere della Sera. According to them, German Finance Minister Christian Lindner opposes financing this aid from the common European debt as it was during the pandemic. So, yeah, even the Germans are like, maybe we shouldn't.
Well, like, even if you don't follow this, like, a lot, where do people think, miss you too, Colin?
What's up, Colin?
Where do people think this money's coming from?
Yeah, it's coming from, taxpayer, like...
Us?
Yeah, like...
Yeah, but they're giving away so much money.
Taxes don't fund spending. Come on. You know that.
Yes, except technically...
It's coming from the allocation of the federal government.
Right. Like, we could be putting those resources
do people understand
here.
You can't just continually print money for Ukraine?
Yeah. I think. Maybe.
Well, you know what? Maybe it's a lead into MMT. To teaching them that, hey, you can just keep printing money and do all that, and guess what? If you keep spending and doing what we need to do here, is it really suffered? Well, so far, yes, because they don't spend here, but that's what they need to do is remove pay-go, right?
It's not sexy. It's not sexy.
It's definitely not sexy. It's not
Craigs
anything.
is on Rockfin. What's up, Craigs?
Griggs is on the Rockfin. Shadowband is on the Rumblaze. We're getting more people to the Rumble now. I'm sharing that around. Rumble. Welcome, Rumble, to INN News, Indie News Network. We are all independent. We are not corporate funded.
Bro. I appreciate that.
Oh, smack.
That's nice.
Oh.
We'll share what you get, like a couple of quarters, Yeti, and then Indy gets a couple of quarters.
I promise not to buy crack.
Well, Rockfin gets their cut too. But thank you.
I won't kink shame you, Yeti. Awesome. But he's putting Twitter stuff in here. Let me open that and see what it is. Next time Glenn Greenwald is caught carrying Steve Bannon's it's other stuff. But anyway, so
usually.
Colin says, so is this basically a weeknight version of How Did We Miss That? Not quite. Much shorter stories, Colin. Much shorter stories. So, the U.S.
Although we did miss the German thing, so...
Yes.
Yeah.
I think this meant to be the second thing the guy was talking about earlier, but he just put 2 ones. So it's like, second, the U.S.-led sanctions regime is collapsing. So the U.S.-led sanctions campaign against Russia is not working, and worse, it's backfiring. The sanctions have transformed an already troubling global energy environment into a full-blown crisis, and nowhere is that crisis more imminent than in Europe. So this is Dr. Eli David. For the first time, the euro is worth less than U.S. dollar. This is what happens when an entire continent decides to commit mass economic suicide on the altar of wokeness. Europe is in such bad shape right now that their ESG-approved climate hoaxing eco-justice warrior politicians are desperately trying to fire up coal power plants before the lights go out across the continent. So that's what this person is saying here. So,
okay.
Yeah. So Germany planned to decommission 11 coal-fired power plants in November as part of its incredible green energy transition. Instead, Germany to decide on keeping those 11 open and reactivate 7 more dormant coal and oil fuel power plants for the winter. So spark up the furnaces, boys. We're going back to the fucking industrial revolution shit. Let's do it.
Fossil fuels, baby.
Right. We gotta beat those Ukrainians and Russians. We gotta do it. Shut down. Germany prepared to give the green light for 10 coal-fired power plants to restart because of concerns that Russia may not resume the flow of gas as scheduled. Meanwhile,
Green New Deal.
Right. Meanwhile, Russia. How much you want to wait that like that's coming here in the States too? Like, we got to start burning coal, and we got to frack now too because we got to have our own. Like it's going to be that nonsense, right?
We still are like the largest producer of oil. We are the largest exporter of fossil fuels. We are the largest exporter of like natural gas. There's so many things where, again, I was yelling at my buddy. He's yelling because he's upset. He's in the oil industry, drives an oil truck, and he sees what's going on with the prices, and everybody's complaining. And I'm like, dude, we've been basically like getting 75% discount on the rest of the world forever, and that's mostly because of the gold stand. I mean, the oil stand. The U.S. petrodollar. Okay, because now we screwed ourselves, and now that China and Russia are doing deals in yuan and in rubles, and that Russia is demanding payment in rubles for their energy in Europe. All of a sudden now, Brazil, they're finding ways to get this energy going around us, whether we produce or not. It's about supply and demand. If they can meet their supply without us, we lose our relevance, and they don't have to work with us if they don't want to, especially if the world doesn't trade oil in dollars, which is what's starting to happen in 2022. And it's freaking out everyone here in the industry. The entitlement to the prices that we had is still stunningly arrogant and short-sighted, and not really understanding that the rest of the world was paying this kind of prices for decades.
Yeah.
And we did.
So, meanwhile, Russia continues to capitalize on Europe's energy vulnerability. The Kremlin is leveraging its energy dominance to put immense pressure on European powers. On Monday, the state-run Gazprom took down its Nord Stream 1 pipeline to Europe for a minimum of 10 days, citing maintenance. Europe isn't buying the rhetoric. Moscow's intentions are crystal clear. So this is Reuters. Western energy majors will cut output and lose billions of dollars if Russia, as is feared, suspends a pipeline that is almost the only export route from oil from landlocked Kazakhstan. Company sources, traders, and analysts say. So, yeah, they're
very
worried
nice,
about,
as
right.
Borat would say. Very nice.
So in hindsight, it should be clear by now that the sanctions never had a chance of achieving the stated objective of bankrupting the Russian economy and slowing its military. China, India, and dozens of other countries remained neutral and continued to trade openly with Moscow. Despite U.S. pressure, they did not even consider joining the sanctions effort. The U.S. sanctions against Russia continue to collapse. The Biden admin may find itself being able to count the remaining parties to the coalition on one hand. With all these continuing crises...
Oh my God, this sounds like...
Go ahead.
This sounds like Iraq. The coalition of the willing. We had the Republic of Palau. Remember that?
Yep.
I'll never forget like the whole Michael Moore Fahrenheit. He did a whole thing about it was Poland and Canada and Australia and people with no standing army. Yeah. They're committing resources. Hilarious.
Isn't it funny? So yeah, with all these continuing crises coupled with a historic failure on the part of the Biden administration, don't be shocked if the war in Ukraine comes to an end sooner rather than later. At least over there, I imagine a bunch of European countries might start bailing. Especially with all these protests happening in Germany, the Netherlands, like France.
Yeah, but you know where it's not happening is in Poland, in Belarus, in Lithuania, in Latvia. And that's what we're now focusing on. Again, this is where Victoria Nuland is playing. Okay. She's going to the Baltic states and she's trying to turn them against Russia and play meddler and say they're going to look what they're doing in Ukraine. They're coming for you next. You better get on board with us because otherwise, and again, it is just Democratic Party fear mongering. Well, it's uniparty fear mongering, just taking overseas. Better back us, or the other guy's going to really get you.
Meanwhile, in the Legion of Doom, U.S. announces $1.7 billion in aid to Ukraine to pay healthcare workers. Victor Liashko, Ukraine's minister, right? Yes. Ukraine's Minister of Health said paying health workers' salaries is becoming more difficult each month due to the overwhelming burden of war. Well, maybe that should teach you something, huh?
Don't
now,
side with Nazis.
My question is, after being attacked and bombed for now over 4 months, evacuating all the women and children from the country and forcing all the men to fight, how many hospitals are left? How much, I don't know, how much of that is just military at this point that they have to have military hospitals and stuff set up? I remember Azov Battalion was set up, right? I remember Azov was set up in hospitals. I know Yeti, you were showing some footage of Azov set up with munitions in hospitals because they knew that it would look bad for the Russians to attack a hospital, and they could always use that propaganda.
Yeah, they did the same thing with schools.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's pretty disgusting, to be honest.
It really is. And now they're
so $1.7 billion to healthcare workers.
Yep.
But again, healthcare workers in Ukraine.
Right.
What Ukrainian healthcare industry is there while they're being bombed and shelled, and they're not having commerce or real life kind of continuing while they're at war?
And it's also like them trying to like manufacture consent a little bit. Like you got to help the healthcare workers. Like, like they're bombing hospitals. Like, it's that sort of stuff.
Don't worry. Ukraine, they're unvaccinated healthcare workers. And you don't have to worry about it.
God. Ukraine is getting
many medical staffers have left Ukraine.
Right. So Ukraine is getting an additional.
So they get $1 million each?
Yes. I will tell you if you let me read. USD 1.7 billion in assistance from the US government and the World Bank to pay the salaries of its beleaguered healthcare workers and provide other essential services. The money coming Tuesday from the U.S. Agency for International Development, the Treasury Department, and the World Bank is meant to alleviate the acute budget deficit caused by Russian President Vladimir Putin's brutal war of aggression, USAID said in a statement. So while many medical staffers have left Ukraine, some hospitals have shut down and other hospitals have been bombed. The health workers who remain in Ukraine do their jobs under dire circumstances. I love this fucking framing.
I'd like to point out
the money came from CIA?
Apparently, yeah.
I'd like to point out that Russia's not actually at war yet.
Yes.
They're still in their special military operation.
Yep. So Victor Liashko,
they declare war.
USAID.
Yes, I know. Yep. Because they're making the statement that it's happening. So Ukraine's Minister of Health said paying health workers' salaries is becoming more difficult each month due to the overwhelming burden of war. USD 1.7 billion is not just yet another financial support. It is investment that makes us a step closer to victory, Liashko said in a statement. Victory. To date, USAID has given why do I keep reading it like that? Has given 4 billion USD in budgetary support to the Ukrainian government. These funds have been used for keeping gas and electricity flowing to hospitals and schools, getting humanitarian supplies to citizens, and paying the salaries of civil servants and teachers, the organization said. The USAID.
Who wrote this?
I will tell you.
Wait. Who wrote this article?
Yes, I will tell you. Why did it go back that way?
No, that's backwards.
Yeah.
Is this the AP?
Yes, it is.
It is the AP.
Yes,
of course it is. This is written by the State Department.
Yep. And even then, they still are having to like. Yellen said, so, right, it's going to be used for humanitarian purposes. We were here, right? And then the USAID administrator, Samantha Power, said that as Putin's assault on Ukraine's public services continue, the United States is rushing in with financial support to help the government keep the lights on, provide essential services to innocent citizens, and pay the healthcare workers who are providing life-saving support on the front lines. Last week, the Biden admin said it will send another $400 million in military equipment to Ukraine. The 15th package of military weapons and equipment transferred to Ukraine from Defense Department stocks since last August. This new set of funds will be used for humanitarian purposes. Right after that, in the statement,
15 packages.
Yes, because the weapons can be used humanitarily. What?
15 packages, 11 months.
This aid will help Ukraine's democratic government provide essential services for the people of Ukraine, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said in a written statement. Yellen said the money would reach those who need it most at the front lines of Putin's brutal and illegal war. That Russia doesn't think they're actually at war. So
he's a lying sack of shit.
Yes.
They're selling the humanitarian aid in the supermarkets.
We'll get to where that aid is going. So overall, the U.S. has sent about $7.3 billion in aid to Ukraine since the war began in last February. So that's a lot of dollary dues. So only the headline and picture of this report may have been reworked by the Business Standard staff. The rest of the content is auto-generated for what? I know. What's wrong? What do you want? Okay, give me a minute. So
from your syndicated feed, yes.
That aid is going where? Ukraine officially admits.
So by the way, stop.
Donated weapons.
Stop.
Yep.
Everybody, Reef just read U.S. government propaganda. I just want everybody to be clear right there. That was absolute nonsense. U.S. government lies and propaganda straight through. But
except
continue, sir.
The money is still the money.
Right. The dollars are true. Where it's going is not.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So I wanted to showcase where that was actually going, where this aid and money is happening to be finding itself. So Ukraine officially admits illegal sale of West donated weapons. So this is from the Bulgarian military.com by Boyko Nikolov. Kiev, $1 equals 29.50 Ukrainian hryvnias. So take that 7.5 billion times 29.50, like
basically 30.
Yeah. So, so the Economic Security Bureau of Ukraine registered repeated sales of humanitarian aid coming from Western countries. Oh, I love this humanitarian aid here. Coming from Western countries as well as arms. This is announced by the director of the department, Vadim Melnik, on the air of the TV channel Ukraine 24 on July 5th, according to Life online portal. So they literally...
Here we go. Rookie cards.
Right,
They're literally doing late night infomercials.
Yes.
This is weapons grade. It is certified 8 quality.
Right. And the fact that they're
shrink wrap from the USA.
Yes, but it's also like they had to admit it on air, that was happening. So location Kiev, Javelin. This is a couple of articles from this website as well. Javelin ATGM is sold for $30,000 on the darknet. Arms trade or not, DSCA wants on the ground supervision in Ukraine. Yeah, so
I see the Javelins on Telegram.
Yes. So even military goods are sold for cash. We have such facts, Melnick said. According to him, the Bureau is investigating cases related to the sale of humanitarian aid received from foreign partners. As far as the sale of military products and weapons is concerned, the department has already registered around 10 such criminal cases. Melnick stressed that this is an incomplete number of similar crimes, as other Ukrainian law enforcement agencies register similar violations. In recent week, more and more signals have come through unofficial channels about the sale of Ukrainian weapons. BulgarianMilitary.com was one of the first sites to inform the world about the potential illegal trade in Western donated weapons, goods, and humanitarian aid. So this is their thief world, right? And this is them talking about the Javelin being sold. Like, this is literally the where they sold it on. It's like thief www.thiefstore.stolen. Like not U.S.
No, there's no governments looking at that.
No,
there's no U.S. government. There's no governments looking at that website at all to try to entrap anybody. No.
They probably run the website.
Look at that. Look at that shady URL. Oh, it's an ad.onion.
Right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Come on. It's an onion ad? Is that for real?
I don't where do you see that at?
See the URL?
Yeah, but it's
look at the URL.
Delinajad.onion/ yeah. Yep.
It's onion. Okay, so go back one to the last screen to the last article. Yeah, this. Okay, so BulgarianMilitary.com. How they got these exclusive screenshots, I do not know.
Yeah, they probably
they're
went
the only ones
here.
that'll release it.
This is from, they said, they actually did say that this is from Telegram, that they got this screenshot from Telegram. So,
yeah, I've seen humanitarian aid.
Yeah.
I've seen that picture on Telegram.
Yep. So in Washington, they even admitted that the agency responsible for the sale and supply of American weapons abroad, DSCA, could not control the stockpiled supplies, their serial numbers, and their distribution among the Ukrainian armed forces because of the war. At this time, the U.S. cannot send mobile teams to check availability, but DSCA is willing to open an office in the territory of Ukraine. DSCA says that the information they have about how the donated U.S. weapons are used is based solely on assurances from Kiev.
Oh, that's good. I'm going to take their word for it. Who could not see that coming?
So BulgarianMilitary.com recalls a Javelin anti-tank guided missile system has appeared as a product for sale on the darknet with the location Kiev. The value that the unknown seller had set was $30,000. The Russian armed forces used American Stinger missiles to shoot down Ukrainian helicopters that tried to evacuate Ukrainian soldiers during the siege of the Azovstal plant in Mariupol. The online portal Donbass Insider claims, citing its military sources from France, that 2 Caesar self-propelled howitzers were sold to the Russian armed forces for $124,000 each. So they sold them howitzers. They sold the Russians
our weapons.
Right.
So now what they can do is shoot their own stuff and basically blame it on us and false flag us all day long is what they're going to claim.
Right. So French MP.
There was a really cool video. This was like a couple of months ago now, I think. And basically it was just like a Russian and a Ukrainian met in a field and he bought like a big BTP tank off him.
Dope. I mean, I'd love to be able to buy a tank. So French MP and
Russian armed forces. Yeah, I love it. Shot down Ukrainian helicopters with our Stingers.
Yep.
Way to go, guys!
Fucking idiots.
You gave the guys the weapons that you did not want to arm. Okay.
So
good
French
idea.
MP and lawyer Régis de Castelnau wrote on his official Twitter account, another success of Macron. 2 French Caesar guns were intercepted intact by the Russians. They are currently in the Uralvugazvodod factory. I did that perfect. In the Urals for study and possible reverse engineering. Thank you, Macron. We are paying. A few days later, on June 23rd, the Russian company, again, Uralvgunzavod, responded to the French lawyer through its official Telegram profile and citing Régis de Castelnau, tweet writing, "Hello, Mr. Régis. Please convey our thanks to President Macron for the donation of the self-propelled guns. The material is, of course, not tip-top, not like our MSTA-S, but nevertheless, it will be useful. Send more. We'll take them down. Like, it's essentially like, we might melt them into scrap. Our stuff is better. Yeah, like, they're like, yeah, we'd rather build our
Russians
own.
are masterful trollers.
Like, it's fucking great.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I know. There's a video of him, and he goes to, like, the range, right? And he's like, he's got, like, you know, like the headset, right? That you have to, like, shoot guns. And he puts it on like this, like, right? And, like, it's obviously he had done that before. Like, you know, because, like, he popped it on like this, and then he was just like, bow, 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 right? You know, like, this dude was a KGB agent. He'll be fine. You know, he knows how this works.
He was a lawyer for the KGB.
Yes.
He wasn't an agent. He was a lawyer.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Technically.
Whatever. Because lawyers need to be that close to U.S. presidents while they're, like, acting as a tourist. You know.
Someone's got to explain the law to him in Russia. Don't want him accidentally get arrested.
It wasn't in Russia. It was here. Like, you know.
Well, then someone had to explain the American laws to the president. Then.
Yes, exactly. I love this though. Like, they're not as good as ours. Like, so, and here's the French, like, howitzers that the Russians have, right? Essentially, this is the, like, the reply from, like, this guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's just in French. So I also found this. So this is an Albanian car plate. It looks NATO anti-tank weapons reach the Balkans through the black market, and they include a video, right? And here's the Albanian plate. In a Volkswagen.
Це так, для початку ми тобі показуємо. Ось його Джавелін, там ще два таких самих. Ну, це, розумієш, в тубусі, це так.
I mean, those look like javelins to me.
Пару Сократів турецьких. Це енлав.
Like, quite a few of them. But they made it to...
And that was on Telegram, you found that?
No, I found this on Twitter.
Yeah, that one's from AZ Military. He's on Telegram too, though.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, y'all see nothing. God, this look at here. Look at these. Here's the Albanian plate on the Volkswagen.
Yeah.
And all the javelins.
Oh, we saw those.
Yeah, we did. We saw them. You know.
Oh, they didn't, huh?
Yes. I have a lot of buttons to beep boop. But thank you, Human Love Solidarity, for letting me know. But anyway, yeah, all our humanitarian aid, right there in the back of that Volkswagen. So, you know, Das Auto.
Only $30,000 worth.
Right?
Per missile.
Yeah. So, anywho's a what's it? Closing thoughts for Ukraine?
Stop selling weapons to Nazis. How many times do I have to fucking say it?
That would be
Stop
nice.
supplying Nazis with anything. That would be good first step, please. I can't believe I have to say this, but Nazis are bad.
Yes.
Yes, seriously. Why?
Why?
For anyone at home that's confused.
Those playing at home.
People.
You know.
Yeah.